Alright guys, welcome back to another motorcycle vlog. In today's vlog it's gonna be a bit different. I'm not gonna take you on a journey in today's vlog due to the weather, but I figured it would be a good time or a good opportunity to give you guys some tips and tricks when you are riding your motorcycle in the rainy weather. So as you can see here, we are in Mandeville and it's been raining. It's been raining all over the country lately and Manchester has been getting some of that rain. So today I've decided to take the bike out and I'm gonna be riding on the wet surface and in the rain a little bit, and I'm gonna give you guys some tips and tricks of how to ride your motorcycle in these rainy weather conditions. So this is something that you guys should definitely get comfortable with when you're riding a motorcycle, because when you're riding a motorcycle you're going to be exposed to the elements, right? So you're going to be exposed to sunshine, wind, rain, and if you're in the northern regions of the world, even snow, if you decide to ride in the snow. But you will definitely be exposed to the elements once you've decided to ride a motorcycle. And here I'm going to give you guys some tips on how to ride in the rain. So with that being said, that's gonna be today's motorcycle vlog, how to ride in rainy weather. Alright, so let's get started. I'll be heading on the road here in Mandeville. I'll be going through Caledonia and then coming back through Hatfield. If you don't know where those places are, you will soon find out. So let's begin. Alright guys, my first tip for you when riding in the rain or riding on any wet surface is to go slow. Alright, so that one is kind of self-explanatory. When you're riding in the rain or riding in wet condition, it doesn't matter whether you're riding a motorcycle, car, or driving a car or driving a truck, you want to go slow, right? So the road is wet, the road is slippery. You want to go slow on these types of roads. Wet roads create more hazards and you want to be able to go slow so that you can avoid them, if any. Alright? Tip number 2 that I want to talk about is to apply progressive brakes. And what I mean by that is when you're riding on a wet road, you don't want to grab the brake lever just like that. Because if you grab the brake lever just like that, chances are the wheel will slide out from under you. So you definitely don't want to be driving fast on a wet road, and you definitely don't want to grab the brake lever or apply too much brakes too fast. That will definitely cause the tires to skid and slide and you will fall off your motorcycle, right? And even in cars, that's a bad idea, right? Because it's easy to get out of control when you drive fast on wet roads and apply too much brakes. In the case of motorcycles, it's best if you use engine braking. So engine braking is basically when you use the engine as a brake. So you downshift to a lower gear and that will cause the bike to slow down, right? So tip number 1, go slow. And tip number 2, don't apply too much brakes all at once. Apply slow and progressive brake pressure. What I mean by that is you slowly squeeze the lever to come to a stop. Alright? So that's tip 1 and tip 2. Now, moving on to tip 3. Tip 3 is to wear your gears. So if you never wore gears to begin with on a dry day, you definitely want to wear gears on a rainy and wet day. And the reason why I say that is that when it's raining, like raining hard, those tiny little raindrops will start to feel like almost bullets when they're hitting you. So the faster you ride in the rain is the more those little raindrops are gonna sting you, especially if you're just wearing a normal t-shirt. So definitely wear your gears. You wanna wear a helmet because a helmet will help to keep rain off your head and it will help to keep your vision clear. because it's gonna be hard to see when you're not wearing any helmet and the rain is just getting into your eyes, like soaking your face, and you're gonna have to be constantly wiping your face. At least with a helmet now, it's a lot easier to see. Also, you want to wear gloves, right? Because when it rains, you'll find that your handlebars get a lot more slippery. And slippery handlebars are never good, because if your handlebars are too slippery to grip, it's going to mean you're going to have less control over the bike. So you want to wear a good set of gloves when you're riding in the rain. And if possible, wear a riding jacket. So like I said before, those tiny little raindrops are going to be falling on you hard, and they're going to sting like bullets. And the faster you ride is the more it's gonna sting. So definitely get a riding jacket if you have one. So remember, tip number 3 is to wear your gears. Wear a helmet. It helps keep rain off your head and helps to keep your vision. Wear gloves because it helps to keep your hands from sliding off the handlebars when they're wet. And wear your jacket, right? Because it helps to keep the rain from stinging you too much. Plus, it also keeps you warm, because when you ride in the rain, especially when you ride fast, so rain combined with the wind from riding fast is gonna make you very cold, cold, and that's not something you want, right? Because let me tell you, it's frustrating riding in the rain like that, and then it gets extremely cold, like you start shivering and you're not able to concentrate on the road very well, and you're gonna give the bike bad inputs. It's never a good idea. So wear your gears to help keep you warm and to help protect you from the rain. Now, let me talk about some tricks that you can do when you're riding in the rain. So here you can see I'm lifting my foot up. There's a reason why I'm riding with my foot up like this. So typically when you're riding in the rain, there are bound to be puddles in the road, right? Now when there are puddles in the road, if you ride in those puddles, it's definitely gonna splash your feet. So if you want to avoid having wet feet, when you see those puddles, gently lift your foot up, right? And use your feet to hold on to the gas tank, right? So that will keep the puddles from splashing you and wetting up your feet or getting your feet soaked. So that's one trick that you can use to keep your feet dry, is to hold them up whenever you're gonna go into a puddle, right? That's pretty much common sense, really. So that's one trick you can use to help keep your feet dry, especially if you don't have on water resistant boots. All right, another trick, right, is when you're riding in the rain, be careful of oncoming vehicles. So oncoming vehicles will tend to basically splash, right? And the last thing you want is to get splashed by these vehicles. So typically what you want to do is to ride closer to the sidewalk so that you don't get directly hit by the water that comes off these vehicles when they're driving towards you, right? So keep close to the sidewalk, so that'll reduce the amount of splash you get from these vehicles, right? Because some of these people driving these cars, they don't care that you're on a bike, so they see you and they don't slow down. They'll just drive like normal, and when they splash into those puddles, it's gonna splash on you. So to minimize that, kind of ride closer to the banking so that you have more distance between you and the splashes, and hopefully it's not a big enough splash where it catches you. So that's one trick to help keep yourself, not getting soaked by dirty water when you're on the road, because these people, they don't really care too much for persons on bikes, at least here in Jamaica. So another trick that I'm gonna tell you about when riding in the rain is to use engine braking. So I mentioned this a lot. Well, I mentioned this in the first tip. I mean, not to apply too much brakes, right? So for this trick now, I'm gonna tell you to use engine braking. So engine braking is basically when you use the engine as a brake. So this is a lot better than applying normal brakes, because the tires are less likely to slide out from under you. So how engine braking works is that if you're going fast and you want to slow down, what you can do is just go down to a lower gear. So if you're in 5th gear and you want to slow down, you can go from 5th gear directly to 3rd gear, and that will slow you down considerably. And you won't run the risk of having the tires slip out under you when you're riding in the rain. So that's one trick. to bear in mind is that when you're riding in the rain, use a lot of engine braking. Don't rely too much on your front and back brakes, because if you're not careful with the amount of brakes that you apply, you might just end up having the wheels slide out under you, because in these wet conditions there is not much traction going on the road surface, especially if you don't have good tires, right? So that's one trick you can use to help be safer on the road. And now, here is my final advice to you when you're riding in wet condition. My final advice to you, or my final tip, is to make sure you carry a rag with you. So carry a rag with you. So this will definitely be helpful, because with the rag now, you can use it to wipe off your motorcycle if you decide to stop, because having a wet seat is always a bad thing. You don't want your pants getting all wet, so having that rag, you can wipe off the seat of your motorcycle and wipe it down. You can also use the rag to kind of wipe off your helmet. So if you have your helmet and you see that your helmet is having a lot of basically rainwater on it, you can wipe it off. Even here in this video, you can see where my GoPro has a lot of water on it. If I had a rag, I could pull over to the side, stop, wipe off the GoPro lens and be back on the road. Same thing applies to your helmet. So having a rag there, you can use it to wipe off your motorcycle, and you can use it to wipe off your helmet. So wiping off your helmet will actually increase your increase your ability to see, which will in turn make it a lot safer for you to ride. And wiping off your motorcycle seat will just make it more comfortable. The last thing you want to do is to ride on a wet seat and then have a wet pants. So those are my advice to you. Those are some tips and tricks, and I hope you can use them when you're riding in the weather. And finally, the last thing that I want to say, the very last thing that I want to say, is that you should mentally prepare yourself to ride in these sort of conditions. So when you're on a motorcycle, right, you're not in a car where you can just wind up the window and turn on the AC and not be bothered by any of the rain at all. When you're on a motorcycle, you're going to be exposed to the elements. So you're going to be exposed to sunshine, you're going to be exposed to wind, you're going to be exposed to rain. So you have to mentally prepare yourself for that. So if riding in the rain is not something that you're not comfortable doing, then I wouldn't suggest getting a motorcycle, because at some point you're gonna have to ride in the rain. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've been riding, it's sunny out, and then all of a sudden it starts to rain. So you definitely need to prepare yourself for that. So I would say go and get some practice riding in the rain, because you definitely need to practice riding in these conditions that are not so great, so that when it does happen to you, you don't panic and do something that you're not supposed to. So riding in the rain is something that you should definitely get accustomed to when you're riding a motorcycle. I'm not saying you're going to be riding in the rain all the time, but you should be comfortable riding in the rain, so that if the rain catches you while on the road, then it's not like you're going to panic, or you're going to say, oh boy, I can't get home because I can't ride in the rain. No. So make sure you're comfortable riding in the elements, such as rain, sunshine, and wind, because wind is a big factor. So with that being said, I want to thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy these tips and tricks that I've given to you, and I hope you use them the next time you decide to go riding and it starts to rain.